Yes, it is perfect timing. Checks are complete. We can publish this YouTube video at 2:53 p.m. and then we can publish the tweet. Hell yeah, baby, let's go. Anyways, today we are continuing our conversations about the Vancouver Canucks and their center search, and going over some updates in regards to a name that I think a lot of Canucks fans would have wanted to see the team go out there and acquire. Unfortunately, to no avail, since this player is not a Vancouver Canuck at the moment. In fact, he's technically not even a Wild. He hasn't signed a contract, period. Today we're talking about Marco Rossi, going over some of the updates on him, and how this relates to the Vancouver Canucks and their center search. Now, just to get it out of the way, Rossi is 23. Rossi ain't big. He's 5'9", 192, a left-handed center drafted 9th overall by Minnesota 5 years ago. And Rossi put up 60 points in 82 games this most recent season. Now, you can say that he had some inflated numbers because there were some injuries, and thus he was forced to play higher in the lineup than he's normally comfortable with. But I say, even though that might have been the case, he still produced. And because he is 23, I think there's a very reasonable avenue to believe that he's capable of more versus the initial deployment that Rossi had with the Minnesota Wild. Because this coaching staff, because this management, they don't seem to trust players who happen to be smaller, even though the idea is, oh, you can win with bigger guys in the playoffs. We saw that with Florida. You know what else helps you win in the playoffs? Scoring goals. And that's what Marco Rossi did. He had 2 goals and 1 assist in 6 games played, half a point a game guy in the postseason, despite the fact that he was getting benched and tossed down there onto the 4th line. This guy wasn't really treated all too well. And now it's gotten into the contract discussion talk because he does need a deal. He is wanting to go a little bit bigger on the term and in the dollar amount, but the Wild are saying no. Rossi himself, he has a fair perspective. He has a fair point of view here. He's like, hey, if I sign a bridge deal, if I sign a lesser dollar amount, lesser term deal, if you guys toss me in the 4th line again, I'm going to really screw myself up and not have any more earning potential in the future. So I could totally understand his perspective here. He's a talented player. He's a young guy. He's got a lot going for him. Let's go over some of the updates, courtesy of Cam Robinson as well as Michael Russo. NHL Rumor Report had this tweet earlier this morning. It's Cam Robinson on Sakaris and Price from 2 days ago talking about the Vancouver Canucks and their center search. This conversation starts out with Jack Roslovic. Roslovic was expecting this to take a while. I'm not even sure 100% that the Vancouver Canucks have put a solid offer in front of him yet. So there you go. One of the center targets in Vancouver just hasn't really gotten the ball rolling here in any respect. He is still a free agent. Roslovic has not signed anywhere. Another tweet goes out there and says, we know the Canucks have been in contact with Roslovic's team a good amount. There are a handful of clubs that are kicking the tires on him as well. But, of course, this video ain't really about Jack Roslovic. Let's go out there and see this. Cam also said on SNP regarding the Canucks and Roslovic, if it's not him, I know they were trying to get Marco Rossi too. Maybe there is an opportunity to circle back. And this is very intriguing, seeing whether or not the Canucks could go that opposite route. If it were up to me, Roslovic versus Rossi, I go Rossi 10 out of 10 times. He is more consistent. I think he's got more upside. He is younger. The only thing that Roslovic has over Rossi is size. And Roslovic ain't really that super big and jacked either. I mean, okay, he could be jacked, but he's 6'1", 194. Like, okay, he is normal-sized, not huge, right? Like, Marco Rossi is 5'9". What's the difference between 5'9" and 6'1"? 4 inches? That's the size of my gosh darn cell phone. If Marco Rossi was the size of my cell phone higher, taller, he would be at Jack Roslovic's height. And the weight, 192 pounds for Rossi, 194 for Roslovic. Are you kidding me? Is that really the biggest determining factor here? Okay, who am I even arguing with? Nobody said that. I'm just making arguments out of thin air. But this is what Robinson says, like, okay, could they circle back on Rossi? Who really knows? Speaking about Rossi, though, here is what was talked about by Joe Smith and Michael Russo on The Athletic 2 days ago. There are a bunch of tweets that go over Rossi's status as a Minnesota Wild. Let's dive into this here. Regarding Marco Rossi on a long-term deal, he wants something in the $6 or $7 million range. Short-term, he is hesitant to sign what he sees as an under-market value contract, fearing it would make him easily tradable or leave him buried in the lineup. That's exactly what we were talking about. Rossi not only wants to get the dollars now, but he wants to set himself up to get the dollars in the future because it's just not projectable with the way the Minnesota Wild have handled him. Even if he gets himself a shorter-term prove-it deal, there's nothing really to prove if he doesn't get played. Let's go over onto this other tweet over here. The Wild and Rossi's camp haven't had talks since early June. And, you know what's funny? The top reply, yet we get daily updates about this. Yeah, that's kind of funny, isn't it? It's almost like it's the off-season. It's almost like it's the end of July and there's really nothing to talk about, so all we got to do is just keep on articulating the same points. No disrespect to anybody who does this. I literally do it for a job as well. But Rossi and Minnesota, they haven't been talking much. They haven't had talks since early June. That's quite unfortunate. They then went out there and said, here, this might be a waiting game until the next pressure point in negotiations. The start of training camp. Okay, so is that going to be the timeline here? We're going to have to wait until September for Marco Rossi and Minnesota to circle back? We've seen what happens with guys when training camp isn't actually played or trained. We've seen what happens with players that hold out in their contract negotiations and then they come back after training camp. They usually stink. Jeremy Swayman didn't have a training camp the other year. He sucked last year. You remember all the years with Marner and Nylander and all that? Oh boy, this is going to be super interesting if the Wild and Rossi don't end up talking until the start of training camp, assuming it doesn't finalize at the start of training camp and Marco's not even able to go and join the Wild. I do wonder how much that will impact his on-ice productivity and just how much he'll be able to improve for next season and beyond. To end off this video, though, let's go back over onto Cam Robinson. He went out there and said this. I think Minnesota is now starting to come around to the thought that we might have to bring Rossi back after that bridge was pretty well burned because they didn't get the offers that they wanted. So, if Minnesota's not getting those offers, all Vancouver has to do is swoop in and send one big, okay, here you go type of deal, and then maybe the Rossi trade gets done. And then Vancouver can offer the guy whatever money he wants because I think they'd probably believe in him a little bit more than Minnesota does. And voila, you have yourselves a guy to be the second-line center behind Elias Pettersson long-term. I'm a really big fan of Marco Rossi, if you couldn't already tell. So with that in mind, I want you to let me know your thoughts in the comment section below. How do you feel about this update, whether or not Vancouver could circle back on Marco Rossi, especially in the midst of him and Minnesota not even negotiating since the start of June? Where do you think this Rossi situation goes? What team does he play for at the start of the 25-26 season? Let me know your thoughts in the comment section below. I hope you enjoyed this Jack Roslovic 9, and bye.